What's up, everyone? It's Nick at Obvious Real Estate. This is episode 1 of who knows if it's an ongoing series. We don't even have a name.
We'll see how we do here.
Yeah, this is James Grayson with 3 Bays Lending. He's a lender I met recently, and I wanted to bring him in today. So I think he has a lot of good insight into the market, and a big part of the home buying process is getting approved for a loan and what that process looks like. So, James, thanks for joining us today, man.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you started as a realtor, and then you got into the lending side.
So actually, I started on the mortgage side, and then
Started on the mortgage
Yep,
side.
I started on the mortgage side. Got into real estate, but it was mostly just for investment purposes, like for my own personal stuff. So I did some buying and selling, and helping other people buy and sell, but it was mainly just for personal investment stuff.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of knowledge on that side of it too, which I guess might make sense as to why like investors tend to be my main clients, I guess, on the mortgage side. But yeah, so now I'm back on the broker side now, because I started out on the retail side in lending, and now I'm back on the broker side, and I just love it. I love the flexibility. I love the people. It's amazing. So
give me a little breakdown. So retail versus broker.
Yeah.
Just the quick and dirty on those.
Yeah. So as a broker, we basically shop across our network of lenders, which is vast, and that enables us to have a ton of products available to us that a lot of others don't. Retail, when I say retail, I mean like a big bank like Wells Fargo. So that's actually where I started, and they kind of have their product line that's set, and they can't really deviate from that. As a broker, like I said, we have access to a lot more. So that it gives us flexibility and allows us to be really competitive as well.
So you're able to shop around somewhat with rates. I know they're kind of set generally by the Fed or the market.
Yep.
Are there other things that people should look for when they're looking for a loan? Terms, I don't know, what else do you
100%.
see that can have an impact on their lives?
100%. And if I get somebody that's telling me that they're being quoted a ridiculous rate, the first thing in my mind is, okay, what are they paying for that rate? Because they probably don't know what it is that they're paying for it. So I'll ask them for a loan estimate. And a lot of times, people try to hide the cost of a rate if it's ridiculously low, like a lot lower than what you're seeing in the market typically. So that's definitely one thing to be aware of is those terms and origination costs and different ways that lenders can sometimes, hide the cost that you're actually paying to get that low rate. So that's definitely one thing I go over with people if I'm in a competitive situation is, hey, make sure you understand exactly what you're paying. So
if you're a first-time home buyer listening to this, if you go and meet with a lender, my first time I walked into Wells Fargo, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was like, how do I get a house? And I sat down with one person.
It's intimidating, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, there's just so much information.
Yeah.
It's
walk in and don't know what you're doing. So there's a ton of information, but what you're saying too is meet with multiple people if you want to, or meet
100%.
with a broker who has multiple options for you.
Yeah, get the best deal. And if I try to be as competitive as possible, and most of the time I'm gonna beat. I like to think that I'm gonna beat most other competitors out there.
I've seen your numbers too.
In terms of rate and terms and things like that. But if somebody's getting a screaming deal elsewhere, and I'm like, I can't compete with this, I'll tell them you need to take that and run. Like you got to do what's best for you. And so I think definitely shopping around a little bit is beneficial for sure.
Something that I've learned in different fields of work, whether it's the fitness industry, the auto industry, housing market, find people who are experts who you trust. And get their opinion, because they're going to know the things to look for and be able to point you in the right direction. If you do have that trusting relationship, hopefully they are going to say, hey, it's not me today. Go to this other guy or whatever it happens to be.
100%. And that's what it does, is that builds trust in the relationship. And if it's not going to work out this time, then, maybe they can refer you somebody down the road, or, you can help them out on their next one, but creating that trust is more important than doing a transaction. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people, we'll use the housing mortgage industry in this example, since that's where we're at, but it gets a bad rap because there are people who are sharks out there who are trying to take advantage of people or just get their money. But a lot of the purpose of putting out this content or just getting out there, meeting with people for coffee or whatever, is just to establish that trust. And person, hey, we have some similar interests. We both have families. You know, we're both trying to get the most out of life, whatever that happens to be, and that really goes a long way in how the process feels and goes, and also I think your confidence level with who you're working with.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, you work with who you want to work with, who you feel comfortable with, who you vibe with. That's just because for the most part, I mean, everything's going to be relatively similar as far as the terms you're going to get from different lenders and things like that. It's who do you want to work with, who do you trust?
I had a friend talked to me recently, and they own a house, which is great, great equity, but they were saying that they wish they had more saved up for a down payment. And I think a lot of people have this 20% number in mind, but there's a lot of programs out there that will allow you to go for significantly less.
Oh yeah, 100%.
What are some of those terms or programs that you're seeing?
Well, yeah, I mean, just a standard conventional, you can go 3% down on a single family. You can actually go down to 5% on a 2 to 4 unit now as well through conventional financing. So, yeah, I mean, and then in addition to that, there's, plenty of DPA programs, which is down payment assistance, that allows you to sometimes get into, I mean, I've seen people get checks back at closing. So, there's plenty of programs out there. But yeah,
I don't know a ton about this either, but I mean, like FHA, VA stuff. Like there's, and I think the big takeaway from this for me and maybe for people watching is go to someone who knows what they're talking about, because there's a ton of options out there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's really a case by case basis as far as what's going to fit with any certain individual, what their financial picture is, what their goals are, things like that. So, but I mean, the moral of the story is there's plenty of options, and especially a big one is the down payment assistance. Now, a lot of people are asking about that and curious about that, and we've got plenty of different options for that. So, yeah, I like to educate people on that stuff because they're mostly unaware of it. So,
when people come in, I know typically like their W-2s, if typically, was it a 5-year work history?
2-year.
2-year work history. Okay. Well, that's a lot nicer than 5 years. So here we go. 2-year work history, W-2s, maybe their savings account. Are there other things that can go into the consideration when you're looking at how much they would qualify for?
Credit's a big one. Yep. So yeah, they gotta, and that's one of the things that I'm seeing that's really hurting people is carrying massive debt loads. And, sometimes it's unavoidable. Things happen, emergencies, things like that. But, and that impacts the credit. Of course, it restricts them a lot financially. And, it's really hard to get ahead. And when you're carrying debt loads like that. So that's something that I'm kind of working through with a lot of people right now, and having some tough conversations. And in some cases, like, hey, I know you're pretty attached to that 2.8% mortgage you got, but if you look at all this high interest debt that you're paying on now, and if you bump that 2.5 or 2.8 up to 6.5, you're going to save X amount of dollars and be in a much better financial position. So people tend to get attached to their low rate and consider it an asset in and of itself, which it is. But in a lot of cases, if they're able to kind of look at things objectively, detach from that, and realize, hey, like if I consolidate all this debt into maybe a higher mortgage rate, it's going to really help me financially. So
they can leverage some of the equity they have in their house to pull off some of that other debt.
Yeah, that's an option too. Yeah. Yep.
So their overall interest rate in life is going to go down
100%,
even though their mortgage may go up slightly.
Yep. So you were asking about W-2. You were asking about
just kind of what if people may have hidden assets that they aren't aware of, or things that could help them qualify or may hurt them. I think.
Okay. Yeah, and I started talking about credit. Yeah, I mean, I like to get the full financial picture. So I like to consider every asset that's out there, because if there are some things that are maybe less favorable when a lender is looking at it, those compensating factors can make a difference. So making sure that we have the full picture of assets. And, when I have my initial conversation with a borrower, I like those to be conversations rich in detail, because I want to make sure that I have a really good understanding of their whole financial picture, cover everything we need to cover, and uncover everything we need to uncover to make sure that, we don't run into any surprises down the road. And you know, anything that's going to kind of hold us up. So just getting a full, you know, understanding of that financial picture is huge from the outset for sure.
I think it's important to remember too, a lot of us, I know this has been a big factor in my life, but we're very motivated by fear and not wanting to show our weaknesses or whatever.
Right.
But if you can make that first step and talk to someone and say, hey, this is where I'm at, for good or for better or worse, you'll find that a lot of times a good lender wants to help you. And they're going to help give you some direction to help get out of it.
No matter what you've got going on, I've seen it before and I've seen worse. So, I mean, and I'm not going to judge anybody for it. Yeah. You know, my job is to help people through that stuff. So, yeah, absolutely.
I think the people that really do start to get ahead in life, and this gets more philosophical, but it's just facing those fears, right?
100%.
Like, let's open the door and look behind it. It's usually not as bad as you think it is.
Get uncomfortable, baby.
Yeah, you get uncomfortable. It's just like getting in the gym, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
You did talk about credit though, and that's something that I didn't know lenders do. Is you can go in, and if you are at a have a lower credit score, you guys can help talk about things that they can do to bump that up.
100%. Yeah, and that's a lot of what we do is, you know, credit counseling and things like that. And we actually work with people that kind of do that at a deeper level. But, you know, a big part of our job is understanding that and understanding the ways that people can, you know, improve that part of their financial picture. So
that was my experience exactly, where it was. I started with Wells Fargo, but you contact someone. I want to buy a house. Maybe you contact a realtor and say, well, have you gotten a loan yet? No, I don't know about that process. Well, here's a lender to talk to.
Yep.
Go meet with the lender. You take half an hour out of your day, and an hour maybe do some prep work. And, hey, I got to repair my credit. Here's some great people to talk to there. And you just keep knocking. And when you're done with the process, you've learned a lot about yourself, like your financial position, and also hopefully improved it quite a bit too.
Yeah, 100%.
How long I'm sure this is a loaded question and there's a big time lapse here, but for people to repair their credit, do you see, you know, hey, I'm looking at getting a house in 2 years or 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what's going on, you know, how bad it is, and how recent, you know, the things that are pulling that credit down, how recent some of that stuff is. If you're talking, you know, foreclosures, bankruptcies, or just derogatory accounts, it's really, you know, how recent is this stuff? Has it been remedied yet? And you're just kind of, you know, still fighting that lower score and just fighting time at this point, or are you still kind of in the thick of it trying to get this stuff taken care of? So, you know, it's really a case-by-case basis, but it's definitely it's a process. It's not an overnight thing, that's for sure. So,
you had talked about initially that you do a lot with investment properties as well. When people are, that's something I'm not as familiar with, just candidly, but when people are getting into that, I'd imagine they start to build a portfolio of properties.
Yep.
And as they do that, they're able to leverage the equity or rental income that they're building into other ones.
Yep.
So those cases, I would imagine, get a little more complicated.
They can be, but in a lot of ways, they're more simple too. And you know, the investors that are doing a lot of deals, they're very dollars and cents. Like, they know what they want, they know if the numbers work or not, and they can say, okay, this is going to produce X, Y, and Z. This is how much I'm going to pay. Boom, let's do it. And it's if I work with somebody multiple times and I already know their financial picture, it's quick and easy. So, and I've been doing some DSCRs lately. More of those as more investors, you know, come to me and
give me a quick definition. DSCR.
So it's a debt service coverage ratio.
Okay.
So basically, what it is the lender takes the property and the performance of the property into account when qualifying, as opposed to, you know, the financial picture, or what's the word?
Yeah, the value.
The financial profile of the borrower.
Yeah.
I mean, credit still comes into play, but you know, you don't have to show W-2 income, tax returns, stuff like that. It's all about the performance of the property. Will your rents, you know, cover your payments and then some? Yeah. If so, like, we'll lend on it. So
that was a big thing that I went into this last house that we got. I didn't have. I had a W-2. I owned a business though, and so we ended up doing a bank statement mortgage, non-traditional. And, but again, it was going to a few different lenders and figuring out. couldn't figure out how to do it, and
Right.
I was just talking to people.
Well, and it's becoming more prevalent now, and I've done bank statement loans as well, and sometimes they can get a little dicey, but most of the time they're pretty smooth and easy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
There really is what fits the individual in
Yep.
their particular lifestyle.
100%.
Talk to me a little bit about, because you had gone from the more retail side of things to working with 3Bays, and 3Bays is one of the preferred partners that we have here at Obvious.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that move, that transition, the culture in the office, what you've enjoyed about it, or.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is extremely helpful. Just coming back and essentially starting from the ground again. There were some things that I really needed to get a little freshened up on and things like that. And nobody's in competition at our office. It's very cohesive and collaborative environment. So love that. The broker side, like I said, it's just there's so much more flexibility, which I really love. Thomas, our managing broker, I've known him before I even got into mortgage. So, and he's a big reason why I made the jump too. Is my respect for him and what he's and what he's done in the industry. And I mean, it's been fantastic. Couldn't be happier.
Yeah. What would you? This is another curveball here, but for somebody who's looking into, I want to either sell my house and buy a new one. We're getting into the big market coming up here, but let's say 6 months or a year down the road, what are some things they could start thinking about right now that might make either your job easier, help put them in a better position to qualify for more, or to get more favorable terms on a loan?
Right. So I would say reach out to the loan professional first before you even think about starting to look, just because they're going to set you up for success and they're going to set you on a path to where you can come up with a strategy together. So, and it's going to be a case by case as far as what to focus on. Yeah. But my main thing is to limit your expenses, limit your liabilities, your monthly obligations. So try to reduce the debt load as much as possible. Obviously save any money that you can, but just don't be stupid at the end of the day. It's not rocket science, right? It's just, don't make any stupid big purchases when you're looking to buy a house, and try to reduce your expenses as much as possible. If you got to do it, just do it after you buy.
Yeah. Well, that was a question actually that my wife had mentioned, and I didn't know the answer to, but let's say you go in, you get a pre-approval, assuming you don't make any big purchases.
Yep.
Is there a time limit on how long you have with that quote, or you're going to make an offer assuming it's within the dollar amount of the pre-approval, and then everything will get run again, and assuming nothing's changed?
Yeah, so the credit reports are good for 120 days.
Okay.
So as far as credit goes, but if you're getting a rate quote, like that can change daily, sometimes multiple times a day.
Okay.
And once you lock that in, that's when that's your rate. So
Okay.
I mean, pricing changes all the time. So
would you lock in once an offer has been made and accepted?
I generally like to, is if somebody's comfortable with what they have and comfortable with their payment, I like to lock, pretty much right away in most cases. It's not always. It really depends on the state of the market.
Yeah.
But if somebody's comfortable with the rate, comfortable with the payment, I think it's usually best to lock sooner than later. But it's a case by case.
When we look at, and it's unpredictable, as a lot of it is governed by the interest rate, but have you seen any recent trends or any kind of predictions that you have coming up here for the market moving forward, or that we're seeing currently?
Well, the general consensus among the experts, right, is that rates are going to slowly start to come down. And I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't really shed a whole ton of light on it. But, based on the trends that we're seeing in the bond market, which is a driver of the rates, that seems to be true.
Yeah.
So, I'm optimistic that that's, what we're going to see in 2025 is rates continuing to kind of slowly climb down.
Yeah.
It's not going to be anything significant, I wouldn't think. But yeah, I mean, the general trend is good so far. So
I've seen a lot of people waiting for the rates to come and drop, and I think if we do see that, when we do see that, it's just you're going to start getting flooded with more buyers, which creates a more competitive market. So
right.
Well, pros and cons to both.
Inflation being higher than expected doesn't help.
Yeah.
That just came out yesterday. So, you know, we
all fits together.
Yeah, we definitely need those inflation numbers down to where the Fed's going to want to start cutting rates. And yeah, so, but in general, I think the trend is you know, looking downwards. So
yeah. Well, this is great, James. This is some good information. Is there anything else that you want to close with or share?
No. I mean, hopefully it was helpful. You know,
I think just the more you can learn about this stuff.
Yeah.
I think really helps me as a real estate agent, but also when you go into the home buying process, just knowing some of the terminology, knowing some of the basic facts. What is it? The a Pareto principle or something? 80%.
Yeah, 80% do 20%. Yeah.
Yeah. So the more you can, you know, get that first 20% under your belt, and you can start talking about a lot more maybe than you think you can.
Yeah, 100%. It's really a trial by fire type of business, and you learn by doing. You know, so the more, I mean, the more you do, the more you learn, and you're always going to run into something you haven't seen before. So keeps you on your toes.
Yeah,
and it's it's one of the beauties of real estate. So,
yeah. This is to kind of summarize things here. James has started reading a book, Comfort Crisis, that I had read before, and it's great. And I think a theme that maybe you picked up on throughout this is get uncomfortable and do things that might push you a little bit, that you're not quite sure about. And that's where growth happens, where learning happens. And, you know, you may end up with a house that rather than paying money towards rent and kind of burning it, you're actually building equity in something, and down the road you're able to make some more moves, whether it's investment properties. You make connections that you may not have had before. You get people in your life that you can direct questions to, and that's, I think, how all of us get ahead.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate the recommendation too, because actually I'd had a few people recommend that book to me, and then we met, and I'm like, okay, I got to get this book now. Like, everyone's telling me to read it.
That's what happened to me too, man. I heard about it a few times, and then it's like that final one pushes you over the edge.
Right, and like I started reading, I'm like, oh, this is a banger. Like, I love this.
It's just a phenomenal book.
And so, my wife and I started 75 Hard.
Did you?
We did.
We've done it, I think, 3 times.
I've done it twice. But this is my first time doing it in the winter. And
oh, dude, that's gnarly. So you've been doing the outdoor workouts.
Outdoor, dude.
We specifically did them in the summer and spring for that.
Winter 75 hard, totally different beast. And it's like the summer, it just feels so easy now, because like an outdoor workout in the summer, it's enjoyable, right? Like winter, it's the last thing I want to do. When it comes time to walk, and we're always walking later at night, so it's always like the coldest.
Bundled up.
And bundled up, like wind's just right in your face.
Yeah.
And it's like 45 minutes is like 2 hours. And but, you know,
you
it's
feel alive when you're done, though, I bet.
Yeah, right before bed, it's nice. Get that adrenaline pumping, baby. But it's always, when I've done it before, like the things that trip me up, it's not the big things. Like, I'm always good with the workouts. Like, I'm good with the water and it's like the picture. Sometimes I'll forget that damn picture. I'll forget to take the stupid picture, and then I got to start over again after like day 20. So, but now it's like, if I can do this winter workout and I can get that done, like, I mean, what else is going to stop me?
Dude,
so
what I love about 75 Hard is a lot of people are like, it's just, you know, you just people who want to get jacked or what. It's like, it's about people who want to build mental toughness.
It's mental. It's not physical. It's a mental
discipline. It's grind. And it's especially when you get into life and you have kids and you have a job and you're traveling around and you have meetings. It's like fitting these 2 45-minute workouts in. Making sure I'm sticking to my diet. I'm not swinging through the drive-through. I mean, it's a grind, but it really it reveals your character.
100%.
Which is just
improve. Yeah, it just improves you on every level, and it's something, you know, that people used to make fun of me for doing it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, really? I'm not gonna drink because you're doing this, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man. You know, but now it's like, it's becoming more of a thing, and you know, more people are like, hey, maybe I could do that too. So
there's without getting into too much of my story, there's I think it's great to like go out, you throw back a few, have fun with your friends, and but there's a look in someone's eyes when they are like, no, man, I'm cool, and it's for something other than just like they're being a little Sally about it. There's a higher standard, right? And it's nothing against doing that or being able to kick back or whatever. It's just that it's like this fire that and it's just it's an indicator. It's just kind of being in shape or going to the gym. It's like you can't fake it.
No, you got to earn it. And I'll tell you one thing that really got me to like stop drinking, because I mean I used to throw them back too and just like have a good time. Like I still do it, but from time to time, just not nearly as much as this Oura Ring. Have you seen the?
I've seen them, man. I haven't tried them out though.
So I'm a data nerd, so I like watch all my data and like I see my sleep data, and if I have even like a couple drinks, it just tanks, and like I see how it affects my sleep, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm done with that. Like I don't know, and something like clicked in my mind. I'm like, I don't need to do this all the time anymore. Like, so I mean, like I still like to have fun and stuff, but it's just not nearly as big of a part of my life.
Well, and you find out, I think when you, just to be, here we go, podcast one. I'm actually in recovery from alcohol and drugs, and a lot of my life, number of years, about a decade that I spent in that kind of atmosphere, but it's when it's just not really an option that you look at. There's a lot of really cool ways that you can have fun.
100%.
There's a lot of really rewarding things that life has to offer, and for me, it's like I think my mind is wired a little differently. Where I like as soon as I start, I'm just fixated on it. And some people don't have that, which is awesome. But it's there's some really. My wife shared this podcast with me recently. She was talking about how some people just are wired a little differently, and they're hunters, and they have to have something to hunt. And if they don't have something to hunt, they get bored, and they can sometimes go into self-destruction mode. But if you can harness that correctly, it can be a really powerful thing.
100%. And I think all humans have that within them, is that drive to hunt or to achieve something, the drive to work towards something. And I think that's, where a lot of mental, issues might come into play, is when you're not actively pursuing that, or, there's kind of a disconnect there.
Absolutely.
That's it. I think that's at the root of a lot of things. So I
was just talking with Tyler Cobb about this, and I really like Alex Hormozi, and I know some people don't, but I think he's great. And one of the things that I love is he's like, it's not about these daily affirmations or whatever it is. He's like, whatever works for you, but what you need to do is create an undeniable amount of proof that you are who you say you are. He goes, outwork your self-doubt, and that's what builds confidence. That's why 75 Hard is so effective, I think, is it's you committing to do something that you're going to stick with, and the confidence that it builds just within yourself, that like, hey, I can go talk to this lender and tell them about my shitty credit, because it's just the fact no one's going to die, and it's going to help me get better. Like
100%.
It just builds these things, and it's these little decisions that, hey, I'm going to go in, talk to a lender today, or I might start looking at houses today, and you actually do it. You follow through on a promise to yourself, and those make all the difference in the long run. Yeah.
Well, and it's what we kind of talked about too, that the concept of, I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it misogyny?
Yeah, misogyny. We'll go with that.
Yeah, where you push yourself to the boundary, and you set a goal that you don't think you can achieve.
Yeah.
And
what are the two requirements? Like there's like a 50% chance of completion.
Yeah.
This is like a physical challenge.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like a workout. It could be
the one in the book, they moved an 85-pound boulder underwater for, what is it, 5 kilometers or something?
Yeah, something wild.
Something crazy. And I'm like, okay, that's just super specific.
They had to dive down, pick it up, move it, come back up for air.
It's like super random. I'm like, okay, so if I'm going to set something like this, like, where do I start? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, so, and then you have that breakthrough, like when you complete that, and you level up as a person. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming out today, James.
Of course, absolutely.
Got to talk shop, and also got to talk life a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So, I love it.
All right,
thanks for having me,
guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
All right.